My name is Natalie Solmer, and I teach at Ivy Tech Community College. I teach English composition, creative writing, and I'm also an editor of the Indianapolis Review, and I write poetry, and I also am a gardener and a mother. While I was working at Marsh Supermarket as a grocery store florist for many years, I began going back to Butler to get an MFA because I did want to teach, and I felt like I just needed a little bit more of a challenge and wanted to make more of an impact, make more of a difference in being able to teach. And I also wanted to focus more on my craft, of writing and poetry, and just really kind of challenging and pushing myself. And it was in those years of like the late 20s when, life just wasn't working out the way I thought it would, so it was just like a shift, I did like The Artist's Way. It's a book by Julia Cameron, and it's a process that you go through, and you write every day, and then you do these certain activities, and it goes on for 3 months or something. And at the end of it, you're supposed to have realization. And I did have a realization that I did want to do MFA, and then I did it again just to make sure. Okay, so I used to keep poetry as more of a very personal, private kind of thing for my own sort of processing, sort of mental health, things like that. And then I think with time, I just sort of wanted to face some of my fears and putting myself more out there and putting my work out there. And it kind of became a part of completing a process, part of the creative process, in sharing it. Sharing it for me is sort of a completion part of the process. But it's definitely not for everybody. Not everybody wants to share their work. But it sort of became part of that for me, where I do want to share it. So for me, when I founded the Indianapolis Review, it was mainly about giving back and being of service to my community, because I felt like I was so appreciative of, in particular, the online journals, that have first published me, because it can be really difficult to get published. A lot of journals really only accept 1% of their submissions. And there's always a need for more journals. So I felt that this was something I could do. It's not too hard to create a website, and I could become more involved. I had really small children at the time, and I couldn't get out much. So this was a way of communicating and meeting people, even if it's just electronically. And also I couldn't believe that there was no Indianapolis Review. And I just felt like there's so much talent here and in the Midwest and in Indiana. And a lot of people don't realize that. And so I wanted to promote indie and Indiana writers, but also be a part of the national and global conversation, because we do get people from all over the world. The literary community in Indiana, I feel is much vaster and richer than maybe a lot of people realize, or people from outside of Indiana. Sometimes it can be maybe a bit fractured or something, and hard to connect different groups. But there are many, many different groups. There's many different areas that people can find a fit. I know my poetry isn't always necessarily joyful, but I do find joy in reading a poem that has a little bit of surprise or interesting language or something unexpected that's about, yet touches on, a human situation that we can all relate to.